if the policies do not change, we will always have an increase of symptoms that are exacerbated by things that are going on around us and in society.
Preach.
That's what I will say.
Preach. Uno, green.
I mean, you got green, so, I mean, do I need to plug? There you go.
Uno out. Let's make this the last game.
Let me just say, I'm not going to tell. When my partner's like, how did it go? I'm like, fine. And I'm going to go upstairs and have another moment like I did on Saturday.
It was fine. It was fine. Thanks for asking, okay? All right, thanks. It was such a nice trip. He's exactly what I thought he was. Mental Health Monday. Mental Health Monday. Because that's how it started.
Okay.
With the Uno cards and whatnot. And as you can see, we're here with another episode of Mental Health Monday. I have my friend Jazz. She's back in the building. We are shuffling cards. We are playing Uno. We plan on seeing who's the winner and who is not the winner. That's the most polite way to put it. In the meantime, Jasmine, let the folks know who you are, what it is that you do, and tell them a bit about yourself and what you've done since our last sit down.
Okay, my name is Jasmine Price. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Maryland and Virginia. Had to make sure. And I own a private practice, Pride of Nyla, where I specialize in intergenerational trauma in Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. Since I was last here, I have started writing a book. I have hired another therapist.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think, what else have I done?
You and Unique ever link up, talk, chat, anything else like that?
We have not yet.
Okay. I know she's been busy during this season, so understandable.
I've basically been being an entrepreneur, a therapist, a partner, and a mom.
So, what's the hardest part of running a business and being a therapist?
Money.
As a Black woman in America? No, you good. Money can still be the issue.
It's the money. It is, especially when you take insurance.
So, especially when you take insurance?
Yes.
How so? Tell me more.
The work that goes into submitting a claim and how long it takes to receive the reimbursement. People not wanting to pay co-payments or not understanding their policy. I wouldn't say that's frustrating because that's something that we don't talk about. That's not something that we're taught. They just tell us we need insurance.
Did I ever tell you my sister is a therapist?
Yellow. No.
Yeah, my sister is a therapist. Red. I was actually on the phone with her because unfortunately our grandfather passed away a couple of days ago, like right before the holiday season. And he was her grandfather, but for me, my figure of what a grandfather would be. Because when I was younger, being Jamaican, my grandfather was an island. I think I only met him once. And it was cool. I had like a month with him. And then the next time I met him again was to bury him. So when it comes to news and stuff like that, I'm very mixed feelings. Because in life, and people go through this in patches, there are people who are your example and people who are the thing, but since you have a limited interaction with them, your memory and scope of who they were to you and for you, it just differs.
Right.
So, I can't believe I got you on that. That's crazy. I didn't know you was gonna hit me with that draw 4 so easy. I said, ooh, thank God I had that. Oh wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right, there you go. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I feel like I threw a doozy at you on that one.
You did. It's okay. I'm not gonna tell nobody but God.
I'm not gonna tell nobody but God. It's me and God. Me and God. That's who needs to know. What was the question I asked you before that story I just shared?
You asked me what I have been doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about trauma. How does trauma show up, and why is it such a fun topic on social media and all parts of our life, especially these last couple of years? I feel like trauma, the word trauma, its use, its uptick has been it's been crazy to watch the growth.
Red. Trauma. The interesting thing about trauma is the person observing does not get to tell the person on the receiving end that it's traumatic, right?
Yeah.
So it is something that happens to you that causes distress, that changes the way that you think about things that you normally didn't think about before. Blue. The way that you interact with people, the way you interact with yourself.
Yeah.
You can have trauma that is ongoing, which can be chronic.
Yeah.
It can be an event, an isolated event that causes trauma.
That's a hell of a draw on your part.
Oh no. I don't know. Why is it being talked about? Because in my opinion, it's not being effectively treated.
That's called a buzzword. It's popular now as a topic, but not as a solution or a suggestion or what can we do about what's going on. That's what it means to be a buzzword, to be popular but useless.
Gotcha.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Everything is not traumatic either, though. So I just want to be clear. Yes.
Okay.
I really don't.
Do you think trauma has a place in the landscape that we're in right now in terms of its use? Because trauma is the replacement word for mental health. Uno. You are hilarious. You, that face was hilarious. You out? Go ahead. Uno. That's funny as hell.
Because it was the switch hands one.
You see what my last number was?
Yes.
You see that, right?
Yes.
Good job, you. Good job. So you won the first.
Oh, that's the first one?
Yeah, it's the first
That's-
one. Yes, the first one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I won.
You won the first one. Yeah. Yeah. But you know, it's a marathon, not a race.
I want people to be, that's why it's important to have your own therapist and to be careful about what's online. And trauma isn't something that you can treat with a short-term therapy. It's a slow walk.
A great points. Talk about things that are important to us currently or things that we may be working on. Are you working on anything new?
I started to write a book
Ooh.
that involves interviewing people.
Okay. What brought that along?
Ooh. The conversation that I am having more with Black women, the amount of young women or young ladies from 12 to 18 that they're seeing an increase in PCOS.
What's PTOS?
PCOS is it is a condition of the reproductive system in women that makes it difficult to conceive. It is extremely painful.
Is that like fibromyalgia, endometriosis?
It's kind of like endometriosis, but a little different.
Okay.
But it is extremely painful, and it does contribute to some mood increases and decreases.
How so?
Depression, increased anxiety. And you can see that also too with women with fibroids. Because of the pain, you can see chronic depression.
Okay.
So-
That part doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
My partner's currently dealing with the two things that I mentioned right now. So we got a surgery coming up in a couple of months. So it's not too shocking. But tell me more about your research.
Well, I'm linking trauma and diseases and illnesses of the womb.
Okay. Does this have to do with your work as a... What's the word? What did we talk about last time? A doula?
Fertility doula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah. So there's not much research, and they don't do much research on Black women and reproductive issues. And as fibroids do impact women of all nationalities, but it's more aggressive in Black women.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the beginning of gynecology in the United States and what enslaved Black women had to endure for the sake of gynecology that we appreciate today, and how that manifests into physical ailments.
Tell me more.
So with fibroids, they did find that young girls who had been sexually assaulted or molested before puberty had more aggressive fibroids and more of them.
Really?
And some of them you can't see from an ultrasound. So there has to be a camera actually inserted into the cervix to see or to gather where the fibroids are. And so your physical ailments can act as a metaphor for what needs your attention emotionally and spiritually and mentally. So I'm delving deep into those conversations because we're not talking about it in our community. And I still find Black women who are not talking to their daughters about sex or their cycles or what that means, what to expect, what's normal, what's not normal.
Yeah. Would you say the women who are not talking to their daughters about that are doing their daughters a disservice?
Absolutely.
How so?
There's a sense of shame that comes with a woman who starts her cycle. If we're not talking about it, then it must be something that needs to be kept a secret, or something that I shouldn't be talking about, or something that shouldn't be embraced by me.
Yeah.
When you hear women talk about their cycles, what do they say?
I'm on my cycle.
And do they talk about how messy, how painful, how much of an inconvenience it is?
Yes. To my knowledge, yes. And actually most of my relationships, we made sure to have like open discussions on like, hey, do you have a heavy flow, a light flow? What's that like for you? What products do I need to get for you? You know, as a guy, how can I help out? But I feel like that's not usually the case across the board.
It's not.
You'd be lucky if you don't make a public purchase.
My brother actually bought, my father bought my first.
Yeah.
And my brother, when I was up here visiting him, he would buy them. And my partner now, he actually never saw his mother or sister purchase, or it never fell out of a bag. He never saw any of that until he met me.
Yeah.
But we have open discussions with it, with each other and our oldest.
Yeah. Those are cards right there. Ironically, the color's blue.
Well, you know, I gotta ask, you know.
Well, what are your rules? I was, as we were talking, I was like, I do need to make sure that we either playing on the same rules or something similar.
Right. Well, I do stat. Do you
Okay.
stat?
I usually stack.
Okay.
I was taught to stack from a young age, but everyone is like different with they stack. So, it's very important. I was actually thinking of angling the camera so people could see your hands, but then I was like, nah, you gotta hold your hands up. What if you don't want to do that? You're trying to hold it low. I was like, let's just keep it simple for now.
And how do you feel about draw fours, no draw twos?
I'm draw fours on draw twos. I think that's okay, but if you don't say the color and I call it out, that means you have to take the brunt of whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually how we do it on my side from Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Usually whoever's throwing out the draw four says the
Yeah.
color as they're landing it down. And we go from there.
Okay, cool beans.
All right.
All right, so you go first since I'm the one that shuffled the deck.
Okay.
Oh, that was a good move. That was a good move. That was a good move. Okay.
Who knows?
I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. I think that's a good move, too. That's a good move, too. That works.
Those were, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good move. Ooh, okay. All right. That's a good move, too. It's very impressive. Am I allowed to go after I draw? Or do you go?
I go. That's
Okay.
That's
No, it's cool.
Okay.
I'm just asking. I'm just just gotta ask for the right things. Okay. So, yellow.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Cool beans. And then just do this. Yeah. We right there with it.
That's all I'm at.
Okay. Was that your last move?
Yes.
All right. Uno. So it's behind your chair to the right. Yeah, right. It's like if you scoot forward. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I got you. All right, so tell me about the job of a fertility doula and why is it important?
The job of a fertility doula is to help you prepare your body for conception.
Okay. How so? Should I go?
Oh Lord, my executive functioning.
Uno. Give me 1 second. I'm listening though on the explanation of the job of fertility doula.
Well, the act itself of conceiving, if you're trying to do it on purpose, I'll put that out there, is a ritual.
Okay.
And so it's a signal when you do the ritual, it's a signal to the body that you are ready.
Uno.
It's important to, discuss diet, what you're eating.
Uno out. Do you do Uno out? Or do you just say Uno?
Uno out.
I feel like that's a black thing. Like, I didn't know in the game you're only supposed to say Uno and that's it. I didn't know it was like Uno out was like an R thing.
Uno out has a ring to it.
Like, I'm outie. Like, oh, y'all thought it was over? I'm out, though. All right. Did you want to shuffle on this one?
I am not a good shuffler.
Okay. I got you. Apologies. I got you.
This hand, too, is not a...
It's not a good shuffle hand?
Well, this is the one that was broken.
Oh, in the accident that we talked about earlier. How long was your hand broken for, accident-wise? Like, how long ago was that?
March.
March? Like this past March? That was before we did our sit-down then, right?
Was it?
How long ago was our sit-down?
I don't know why I feel like the sit-down was after the accident. I mean, before the accident.
I'm not sure. I know you know facts. You're a facts person.
I want to say we sat down before the accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Cool beans. All right. Let's get back to the importance of a fertility doula and the job in which that is.
So yeah, you want to look at what you're eating. You want to look at if there is any trauma, because sometimes trauma can manifest into physical ailments, like what we just discussed. PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis. women tend to hold fear and trauma in their wombs. So you look at all of those things, and you create a ritual with the person that you're working with and their partner.
Yeah. And their partner.
And that's important because they're part of the ritual.
Yeah. So why is it important to create a relationship or a ritual with them and their partner in the work that you do as a fertility doula?
There is an important part of the partner understanding what's going on with the person who is conceiving.
Okay. Do you feel that, or not do you feel, have you observed that there's a lot of misunderstanding between men and women when it comes to their partners and what's going on with their partner who's pregnant?
Yes.
How so? Like, what would be an example?
An example is all of the ins and outs of what happens to the body when it's ready to conceive. From basal temperature to a change in sex drive.
What's your color?
Green.
Usually I'd say no color, and you have to draw 2 when you do that.
Okay.
So we didn't go over that rule until now. So just for future references.
So say the color and then put it down, or
green.
Okay.
Yeah. Because where I'm from, we jump on you for that. It's no color. Draw 2. And it's just like, oh dang, you're right. I'm sorry, your explanation. You said green, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank God.
Even change in mood around the time of conception.
Yeah. Uno.
Green.
Uno, red.
See why I don't play spades? This is why I don't play spades.
I got you. That face said you mess with my feng shui. Okay, you mess with my feng shui. But I'm sorry. Let's get back to what you were talking about, though.
Sometimes men seem to be a little disconnected, not because of they don't want to know. A lot of times, I get the sense that society tells them that that's not their problem or something that they should concern themselves with.
Yeah. Is that the equivalent of stay out of a woman's business sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
The issue with that is that woman's business involves you and can impact you too, and it can impact the relationship.
Yeah. Are there courses that you teach or words of advice that you usually keep in mind when it comes to new clients as a fertility doula?
I don't teach courses, but I like that idea, which is interesting because I was just talking with my healer earlier. We had a session about me wanting to show up more in the birth space, but I don't know in what capacity.
Okay.
Because if I'm helping you with conception, that's different. I'm not in the birth space. But I like that idea.
You're not in the birth space right now?
No, I'm not in the birth space right now. Once you conceive, I pass you off to another doula who is a birthing doula. I have no parts in that. I have no training, education in the birthing process other than the fact that I have given birth.
Okay. How does being a fertility doula tie into mental health?
Have you spoken with a woman who is having a hard time conceiving?
I've heard stories of, but I don't know. I don't think I could say I've personally had my own conversations with someone that... Wait, actually, yes. I actually had a couple of friends who had gone through trying but not succeeding, and actually they're supposed to be due soon. Congratulations to them in the next month and a half. Yes. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I actually had another friend who had a similar situation. So I think not thinking about it because our worlds are far apart. Because even if they're your next door neighbor, their worlds can still technically be far apart because we have so much going on. So, yes, to answer your question.
Okay. Well, on one side of things, green.
Okay.
On one side of things, it is the internalizing, I can't get pregnant, it's my fault. And working
Red.
through that. And working through the depression around that. Or feeling less than a woman or less than a birthing person and shutting down from their partner.
Yeah. So this isn't a boundary situation. This is a overcoming difficult moments situation. How do these things play out in people's relationships from what you've seen?
It can play out in anger,
Like lashing out?
lashing out, blaming
Yeah.
without truly understanding what's going on, especially when there's trauma involved, right? So I talked about the link between trauma and physical ailments. That can play a part in your cycles. Is it coming on time? What is it that you're holding on to?
Yeah.
When I first started working with my therapist, I had really horrible cycles. They were painful to the point I would pass out. In high school, my gynecologist actually prescribed me Oxy for the pain. But I have a history of sexual abuse, and so it was a slow walk with my therapist. And when we finally started talking about it and I started doing energy healing, energy work, and actually delving deep into my family history of sexual abuse and my sexual abuse, and the last step actually communicating that to my father and actually using my voice, my cycles, the pain went away, right? And so I changed my eating habits. I worked with my gynecologist, but I also worked with my therapist on the emotional. So I was doing the work in every aspect possible to tend to my menstrual cycle health. And that's a component that people forget about. They'll tell you go to the doctor and whatever the doctor said, you do it. But how many times have you gone to the doctor and be like, oh, this isn't working, try a different medication, or we don't know what else to do. And so I'm working with people, and let's talk about some of that trauma that you may be holding on to that may be yours, some of it, and some of it may be from your lineage.
I know that originally when you came into becoming a therapist, it was about forensic therapy. Is that what it was called?
Forensic psychology, yeah.
Right, forensic psychology. How much of that knowledge and education would you say plays a role into the work you do now? When it comes to this realm of what we're discussing.
Very little.
Okay. How so?
So the forensic piece, which is because I was a clinical track,
Yeah.
a lot of the things that I learned in grad school, I had to move it around and unlearn because of the society that we're in, we're taught to treat the symptom.
Yeah.
It's easier and it's more profitable when you treat the symptom. We weren't taught to get to the root of what was going on, and that also goes to show when you're working in the community for community-based agencies, it's not profitable because you will be with people longer when you start to get to the root of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not like 6 months to a year you're good. Go on, I discharge you. When you get to the root of the problem, it can be a long road.
Do you ever prepare people for where that road may take them?
Yes. And if I'm honest, when I get a new client, I can tell if they are going to be invested to do the work and if they're going to be with me for a short period of time and then not come back.
You could see the tea leaves early. Does that make you refrained from wanting to? How do you view your relationships with your clients?
That's a good question.
Okay, is that a question? Is that something you've ever thought about before?
I have questioned whether I not. T- I've questioned whether or not my relationship would be deemed therapeutic in a way that has been explained to us in grad school and on TV, and when people think about, Freud and Erickson and what that looks like, I see my clients as the expert, right? I'm coming into this space as an outsider looking in to connect dots that they don't see. But there's not a hierarchy.
Okay.
With my clients.
You don't come from a position of power when you're with your clients. You come from a position of trying to be as harmonious as possible, I think would be a good way to put it.
A space of empowerment, right? So there's things that I'm knowledgeable in my field, and having worked with a healer, right?
Yeah.
There's things that I'm knowledgeable in, but how that works for you and how that may show up for you and how you implement it is not something that I'm knowledgeable in, because I'm not you.
Okay. Would you say with your work as a doula, remind me what the word is, because I want to make sure
Fertility doula.
Fertility doula. Have you ever had to sit separately with the husband or the baby daddy in this situation and say, hey, we need to talk about some things?
Yes.
What does that space look like? Does that ever feel like you're not infringing upon, because you are there for the whole picture, but does the baby mother or wife ever feel left out of the conversation when you have to sit down with him separately?
No.
Okay.
No. And when I go in, I will say, just like I would if I was doing couple therapy, there will be times where I meet with you separately.
Yeah.
Especially if I pick up on things that someone may be not saying because they're in this space, and I'm observing the dynamic between the two of you. But then I'm careful not to cross into that therapeutic realm. I have I have a referral list. I will refer you while I'm working with you in this capacity for you to have a individual therapist. And then there's sometimes, where I will say, I don't know if this is where you need to begin, because the dynamic between the two of you may not be the healthiest for you to conceive. And that's a hard conversation.
Okay.
But I would do a disservice if I take your money and not communicate to you what I'm seeing.
Or at least make you aware of how big your trials may have to be between each other. Yeah. Is that ever heartbreaking for you?
Yeah. Because you can see the desperation sometimes, and sometimes it's very rare that you see the desperation from the husband or the boyfriend, but the desperation in either person that this is going to be the thing to bring us together, or this is what's going to fix it, or this is what's going to fill my void. It is heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, damn. I don't know if I could do it. Now, just being honest, because it's like, I think in the work that we do mutually, like between you as a therapist and me as an advocate, advocating is understanding that the truth I have to say out loud may not be the popular opinion, or it's the elephant in the room that you guys are avoiding, but your elephant isn't my elephant. So me saying it out loud doesn't mean you guys get closer to closure or closer to a solution, but it does at least acknowledge this is probably where your starting point's going to have to be when you do get help, outside of me saying, help looks good on you, but it's going to be a lot of work. So like, as of late, with a lot of the mental health events that we've been doing, especially in DC, when it comes to like the wellness and mental health space, I think the gray area is the most important thing that the community is supposed to handle, because you guys as therapists aren't supposed to be the solution for all the things that are going on that are wrong. If anything, you're supposed to be a part of one of the gears that leads to accomplishing what better looks like for someone, but everyone defines better differently. So it's really, what do they want for themselves, or what have they not realized that they may want for themselves? And us as a community either coming around that, or us as a community acknowledging we don't want any parts of that. Yeah. That's why when people go to therapy, sometimes people tell them they need to change, and the folks around them don't actually want to be a part of the change, even though they may be directly connected to the issue.
Yeah, I know that all too well.
And I preach that quite often. It's your turn.
Green.
Okay. I'm such a nice person. Okay, you were a nice person. Now I gotta draw cards. Oh, wow.
Oh.
You're still a nice person. You know, this is a deck that I haven't used in a very long time. We're swapping hands? No color. So we're going to swap these hands. You're going to draw 2 more cards. Here you go. That's you. That's me. Thank you.
Oh,
Still got to pick a color.
yellow.
Okay. I'm surprised that you wanted to switch hands with me, even though I had so many cards and you only had 2.
Well, your hands have tended to get you a win, so
I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but sure. I'll take that. I'll take that. It's not a bad description or breakdown of what's been going on here.
so me.
You just put the 1 and I drew a card. Yep,
Okay.
That's you. But you may be onto something. You good. All right. So, as a communicator and a content creator, and also a fertility doula, what does it mean to bring life into this world? Should I draw?
Yes.
Or be one of the facilitators? We don't have alcohol here. I just drew a card that says take a shot. I'm probably going to change that to something else. This must be from the party deck from when I went on that vacation a while back. I'm sorry.
That's a different kind of Uno.
It's probably for my sister's birthday when we went out of town. But yeah, what does it mean to bring life into this world?
To bring life into this world is to bring about hope. And right now, there's not a lot of hope.
Nope. I hope you make it home safely. That's all the hope we got for you right now.
It's really heavy right now.
Blue. We're just gonna not acknowledge that It's just a wild card. Yeah. Oh, that's ironic.
Oh no.
Oh, good job, you. Ooh, what a blunder. Gonna do that.
Uno out.
Good job. You know what's funny? You wanna know what my other move was?
What?
You was guaranteed anyway. I was like, well, ooh, oh, that's crazy. Oh, Wasn't going to be my day on that one. The hand switch paid off. It was a risk because we was drawing a lot of cards. But yeah, what does it mean to bring life into this world?
Yeah. Hope. It's a feeling you can't describe, and it's interesting because I'm sitting here thinking, because I've been.
Do I ask you questions that really make you think that you don't
Yeah.
usually hear? Because I feel like our last interview was very similar to this, where you was like, "Man, that's a damn good question."
But it's
man.
also things that I have thought about in silence,
Okay.
with not sharing with anyone, like wanting to become a full spectrum doula.
What's a full spectrum doula?
So a full spectrum doula is from the rooter to the tutor. They help you conceive. They're with you throughout your pregnancy. They're with you in the birthing space, helping you birth. It's a postpartum doula, and in some trainings they even lump death and abortion doulas.
Really?
Yes.
So is abortion doula for when you have to go through the process of an abortion and what motherhood looks like on the other side of not being a mother after going through that process? You are making a sad face, so I assume it's something that's a very heavy process.
It is a heavy process, whether you decide to do it or you're told medically it has to be done. I think the feelings associated with that, having to make that decision, are the same, regardless of what the circumstances are.
What's the saddest situation you've come across as a doula, if you don't mind sharing that story?
Having to birth your child knowing that they don't get to come home with you.
Okay. I'm not gonna say how so. My mom went through that. So I'm very aware of that pain, or what that looks like in the long haul. Do you think, does the world make space for mothers?
No, not at all.
How so?
When you're talking about children, no one talks about what that means for you
Red.
as a woman. What that means about your time, what that means
Red.
about you pouring into yourself. Oh wait, that's 6. How long it takes for you to physically heal, and I'm just talking physically heal from giving birth.
Yeah.
Going back to work, what that looks like, especially if you're nursing. The support
Uno out.
is there. I should have swapped my hands again.
So I should have done it. I should have done it.
I see the support trying to be there, but just like working in a community-based agency, we are doing it on the ground where we need policy change.
What's a community-based agency?
Like an outpatient mental health clinic that's based in the community, and you do in-home therapy, or you have PRP services with it, which is a rehabilitation program that goes into the home. So yeah, agency based in the community that serves that community.
Have you ever come across moms who are pregnant but they're dealing with suicidal ideation?
No.
Okay. So the reason I asked this is last night I got a call. You know, we're shooting this around the time of a holiday, an important American holiday. And when I got the call from this friend, I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" So they called me to let me know that a mutual friend of ours, who I know them through who they were dating, that they're no longer going to be together because this person, when they woke up, was in the middle of self-harming themselves, right? And I said, okay, so what's going on? They said, well, they just got taken to the hospital. Their aunts with them. And right now they're being submitted into an intake program, right? And I said, okay, so I'm glad you were there for them and you were able to do what you need to do, but how can I help? What's going on with you? And they told me, they're like, how do they feel less guilty for the decision that they made because they feel horrible and they feel like they've abandoned that person? I said, how so? They were like, well, in the relationship when they were doing what they were doing, I did everything that I could to be there for them, but I woke up that day and I saw what they were doing and I realized I can't do this anymore. So how do you find time to feel less guilty for not being able to be there for someone that you love? What advice would you have given that person?
No.
As a therapist or as a friend? So first as a therapist and then second as a friend. And those are two separate answers for you guys. That's why I got to say it that way.
As a therapist, I would explore and process what were their expectations for being there for them. Because in the being there for them, were you expecting your presence and your support to stop the behavior? Or was it just being there and being supportive regardless of what the outcome was?
Yeah.
That's very important because a lot of times we have to check our intentions. And so is the guilt associated with you not being able to stop them because that's not your job. You can't, right? So as a therapist, it would be to explore those things because I think with insight would help with some of the guilt. The guilt is going to be there.
Yeah.
So sitting with that is inevitable and it's going to be uncomfortable. But working through that and working through the thought process of how you showed up and like your intentions for showing up is important.
What I told them was, wait, did you answered both questions, right?
I didn't. As a friend, I would tell my friend that they did what they had the capacity to do and that they realized that they no longer had the capacity. And so it's okay to not hand off someone, but to make sure that they're in the hands that they need to be in.
Like a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just hold space, if you want to stay here and take a shot Uno, we can absolutely do that. Or take shots without the Uno, whichever.
Yeah. So what I told them was, now we're not super close on the friendship spectrum, but if I've ever told you, hey, call me if you ever need me and if you have an issue, and I'll do the best that I can for you or whatever's going on. I wasn't baffled by the news. I kind of could see that was going to be something that was going to happen eventually, unfortunately. But I told them that you dating the person and holding them down for as long as you did, that it would really behoove you to not acknowledge the work that you've done when you were in that relationship for so long. And I asked them, I was like, how long have you guys been dating for? And they said, we were dating for about 4 years. Good job, you. And I was like, okay, cool beans. In the 4 years that you've dated, I've seen you develop that relationship into the most beautiful form of what it could be between each other. But unfortunately in life, every relationship runs its course. And when it comes to dating someone that's dealing with suicidal ideation, Green, it is not and it should never be your responsibility to be the entire bearer
Right.
of that trauma and what's going on, and how bad things have gotten. That's not your responsibility. It's your responsibility to be there for them as much as you can, but you're also supposed to continue to build community, and hopefully that person has community around them and what they're going through, because those are two
Right.
separate things. Should I go next?
Yes.
Now, with that being said, uno out. I feel like I'm cheating with the way this is going right now.
I feel that way too.
I was like, you should shuffle, but you told me you're not good at shuffling.
I'm gonna see now,
Okay.
because I've been watching you. You haven't been doing like that,
No, I don't.
type.
I don't have that. I just, I'll split a deck every now and then. That's where I am on things. That's it.
I mean, because when I moved
Yeah.
up here, it was you play spades. You know how to deal.
I'm actually not great at spades, and I never was raised on playing spades. My partner recently taught me how to play spades. Yeah.
Same. I've been playing spades on the phone. I'm not getting on anybody's table, because what we don't talk about in our community is the trauma behind the spades table.
Obviously, that's going to be a discussion point next time as we play spades. Talk
It's
about
very
the trauma
dramatic.
behind
Very
spades.
dramatic. It's
Teach a man how to squabble. But when it came to her calling her, reaching out to me, I was like, look, I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice that you're not going to like. Number 1, after they have a whole life together, so they have a lease,
okay.
they live together, they've been in a relationship for a couple of years. They recently just took a trip, or were supposed to take a trip to each other's home. Things were about to progress in a very large way.
Okay.
That's
Got
what
it.
I'm going to say between the both of them. And that's heartbreaking, but you not being able to be there for someone who is self-inflicting, and when you start to see the habit is arising, it's usually connected to something that you're not supposed to handle. You're not supposed to be the one that handles that. Now, outside of self-harm, it was also a situation where bodily wise, things were starting to go in the wrong direction between the both of them in terms of how things just played out. And I was like, you're going to feel guilty for a long time, even after these words that I'm saying to you, but you're going to have to learn to pick up the phone and call me more so we can talk and really work through what you have going on. And she already has a therapist. She was like, I have a therapy session that's marked for 8 p.m. tomorrow. And I was like, that's just the beginning. that therapy session, that's just the beginning. How you feel about yourself, you're going to have a lot of emotions to work through. And I also let her know you don't have to be a part of anyone else's healing. You've done your part in the relationship. Her aunt is there now. I'm not telling you to fully abandon the person, but I am going to tell you to protect yourself. And sometimes protecting yourself is separating yourselves from those that you love and really sitting with the newfound feelings that you have now and learning to figure out who are you after this whole relationship and journey that you've gone through with this person.
Right.
I'm glad that they had you when they had you. But with that being said, you have so much life to live and so do they. And you are both going to have to separately figure things out without each other from this point going forward. I'm not saying to not answer the phone, but there's a certain trauma that you do inherit from someone that's going through that, especially when you're dating, not even just living together, the responsibility and the burden of feeling you have to shoulder this. And to this day, I deal with that on the regular. So because I know about that and those feelings, I tell people hey, what you were responsible for in your storyline, whether you realize it or not, you did the most that you could.
And what it's your go. But what I usually tell people is that there's a difference for having a responsibility to and being responsible for. You're only responsible for self, but you have a responsibility to other people to be a good human and to model.
Yeah.
What they do with any information or your support, that's on them.
Yeah. And there's a limit. We all have a limit. No matter how much of us think we're there for people, everyone has a decision to make at some point in their life.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, she was like, thank you. I really appreciate that. I said, girl, we gonna be having a lot more of these conversations than you know. I was like, that's the best I got for you. Is it your turn or my turn?
Yours.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Are there any
Green.
questions you want to ask?
What?
You said green, right?
Yes.
Cool.
And I said it at the perfect time.
That's funny as hell.
Oh.
Aw, that's adorable.
What conversations did you have, if you did, in the family or with your parents?
Just your turn.
About children and childbirth?
Me? You mean the people that have gone through what we talked about earlier in the conversation, or in general?
Just in general.
Like me wanting to have kids?
You wanting to have kids, what that looks like, what parenting looks like?
Oh, man, that's kind of a heavy topic for me. I think I had dreams of having kids early, most of my life, actually. Because, like, I was a kid once, and look how I turned out. My parents, they did an okay job. And that okay job was them doing the best that they could. And I always appreciated them for that. But then I think after facing the bitter reality of you don't always get what you want in life, that changed my perspective and feeling of having children. I still do want to have kids, but there's this image of what you wanted that you wrestle with, and it's not out of guilt, it's out of sorrow. Because when you picture your life with someone, I think there's a point that, like, as people, you literally paint a picture in your mind, right? You paint a picture with conversations, you paint a picture with feelings, you paint a picture with jokes. Like, yo, man, we about to make some chocolate ass babies. You feel what I'm saying? And, like, it's joyous and it's cool until, like, the person you've had that conversation with for years dies, and then you're like, I don't even know if I want one baby. Right? So then if you're lucky or blessed enough, you can find someone who does rekindle that idea of what having a family with someone looks like, what having and raising a child with someone looks like. But then, like, the child that's in you, there's that inner voice of, well, why couldn't we have what we wanted before? And it's like, well, that's not your choice anymore. Like, decisions have been made, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. So I think for me, it's been more of, I'm not really a glass half full or half empty person. I am make the best of what I've chosen to do in life. And if there's love there, you're lucky, because love takes practice. And if there's no love there, sometimes you're lucky too, because that means there's something there. It just may not be the thing that you've been brought up to want in life. And what does that look like? So, like, for example, my partner and I, we have like a lot of discussions, right? But like we're very honest with what we talk about between each other. And before having a kid or having a family, I'm very big on the component of, can I be there for you as a partner first before all that other shit that we dream about? Because if I can't be there for you as your nigga, and I can't be there for you as the man that I see myself as, then there's no point in us going on this journey together where I just practice disappointing you. Because like, disappointment is actually something that takes practice, just as much as making someone happy is something that takes practice too. And I just happen to be one of those people that really practice what love looks like. And I'm lucky to have found someone once again that makes me want to see what a bright future looks like with a family instead of just a bright future by myself, because I'm really good at falling in love with just what life looks like with just me, and that's it. I think that's the best way to answer that question.
Okay.
Was that a good answer?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It definitely is. And I ask that because usually when I talk to men, and especially in a space where I am the fertility doula, they'll always say, well, I always knew I wanted children, but I never really thought about it or thought about what it takes, or I didn't know it was going to be this hard or this challenging.
Oh, that's a lot of ass to wipe. It's a lot of ass to wipe. Like, I forgot who it was. It was either one of my folks or, yeah, it's your turn, or one of my cousins. They told me, Yellow, they told me that, uno out. They told me that,
Uno about to be traumatic.
Should I shuffle the deck, or did you want to shuffle again?
I can shuffle again. You did it like so many times right?
They told me that when you have a kid, hey, you're going to wipe a lot of ass. That's why I always find that shit funny, because it's just like, they eat so much. You know what it means when they eat that much? There's a lot of poo.
You don't, and you might be wiping ass before the baby get here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that too.
My partner was like, I've never been this close to a woman in my life. And never enjoyed it so much. He enjoyed watching me grow. But that last pregnancy kicked my ass.
How so?
Well, one, I found out I was pregnant in September of 2020. And then...
Damn.
And then, you know, the whole world just...
Yeah.
And then I got COVID in March, right when everything was like shutting down.
Yeah.
And was scared. I can't even put into words how afraid I was, and my partner was too, because I kept saying I need to go get tested. He was like, you don't have COVID, and he kept saying that, and I had to be the one to say, it's time to go to the emergency room. And I did. I tested positive for COVID. Those 2 weeks were a blur.
Yeah.
I lost 20 pounds. But
losing 20 pounds while pregnant is probably terrifying.
It is. And there would be moments, because he slept downstairs, and my daughter, because they tell you they told me I had to quarantine. I had to use a separate bathroom. I'm like, we live in a townhome, so only one full bathroom.
Yeah.
So we did what we could.
Just gotta wipe everything down.
Yeah. And it would be moments where I would wake up and he would be standing at the foot of the bed, just to make sure that I was breathing, or that my daughter, my oldest, would be at the doorway doing the same. But she moved the entire time I was pregnant. I mean, during those 2 weeks, she moved nonstop.
Yeah.
And then I lost 20 pounds, but she ended up being 10 pounds. But she shifted my pelvis, and that was extremely painful. Moving, going upstairs was just horrible. Heartburn all the time. Hemorrhoids, it was very uncomfortable. It was
Yeah.
very uncomfortable. And so to navigate that space and for him to be a part of me growing and housing this little person was special for us both, because neither one of us with our first children had the opportunity to be on the day-to-day with the other parent. But yeah, it was I didn't have morning sickness, but that heartburn was horrible. And I lived off orange juice and ice.
Orange juice and ice?
Oh, it was so good. Orange juice and ice. Like, it had to be, don't bring me any kind of ice. Like, we were pulling up the Chick-fil-A or Sonic and getting the bags of ice and keeping
They
it in
sell
the
the bags of
refrigerator.
ice? Really?
I didn't know
I never
that.
knew that.
He told me, he came through in a clutch. I had eaten my cup of ice, and he was like, "Babe, don't even worry, I'm coming home." And he opened that door and pulled out that bag
So,
of ice.
hey, we on it. What's up? I got you.
Yes, but
He's a good man, Savannah.
and he, actually he was very supportive and because they tried to tell me I couldn't come back into the office close to me giving birth because I had COVID, and it was like well after. It's like it's been almost a month, but I encountered issues even when I went to go give birth. And he actually told me, he said, I wanted you to be at a hospital because if it was something out of my hands, because I wanted to have a home birth with my doula.
Yeah.
But he has some trauma there with people transitioning, and he was like, I need you to be in the hands of people who can help you. And she ended up getting stuck.
God dang. She was not making this last trip of yours easy at all.
If it was a sign of things to come, she did a good job. Because that is my baby. But yeah, she ended up getting stuck. But he actually told me that if he could do it again, he would opt for the home birth. Even with her getting stuck.
Okay. Do you think it is a part of the doula's criteria of work to talk to the man about maybe getting snipped at a certain point? Like, hey man, you don't think that's enough kids? Or like, hey man, you guys have this life ahead of you, but like the last couple of processes was like really, really hard on your wife and your partner. Is this something you would consider? And does that tie into mental health as a discussion? Mental health, the hell out of this whole thing.
It
Mental
definitely
health.
it ties into mental health. I do think that it is a responsibility to both parties and the child, because you also have to realize.
And the child?
Yes, because how the child comes in, that can be a traumatic experience too. Just coming through the birth canal itself can be traumatic.
Yeah.
And so what type of space are they entering in? Is it loud? Is it chaotic? Is it welcoming?
Yeah.
And so when the mother has certain feelings towards being pregnant, or damn, I'm pregnant again, and this is my absolute last one, that plays a role in how the child gets here. So I think there is a responsibility to be able to have that conversation. Ultimately, it's up to them. But absolutely, especially when women go in and they do it for themselves, that's more invasive than a man going and getting a vasectomy.
Really?
That's the actual, like, you going in, they're going in and removing your tubes, because they don't just tie them now and they don't just burn them now. They remove the tubes.
That's a whole full surgery. It's a full recovery. That's not, I can just walk in, quick snip, and walk out and go get me a donut. That's talking about weeks to months of healing. Oh, that's crazy.
Yes. So having that conversation and educating people.
As a woman, do you... Wait, actually, were you finished? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was finished.
As a woman, do you ever see some of these medical practices and think, is there a better way or option to all this stuff that's being done across the board? Because ain't no way, boy. Ain't no way.
Every day.
Yeah.
Especially when we talk about gynecology and women giving birth.
Yeah.
even down to how they intervened when my youngest got stuck. They actually pulled my partner in to help facilitate. It was chaotic, and it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I've seen doulas when either the shoulders got stuck, how they coach the women to be able to maneuver the baby to come out in a way that is nurturing and loving and supportive, or like a breech birth.
Yeah.
In the hospital,
what's a
it
breech
is
birth?
where the baby is coming out feet first.
Okay.
And that's dangerous because you don't know if the cord is wrapped around the baby's neck. So if they're coming out feet first, then
Yeah.
So there are ways that are less invasive to be able to support someone who is in labor and giving birth.
Yeah. So the term wipe a lot of ass, right? The reason that's hilarious to me is with a lot of these men events, it's your turn. With a lot of these men events that we've been doing,
Great.
Uno out. With a lot of these, oh dang, you was loaded. You was about to let that thing sing. Thank you for not letting that thing sing. That was a chopper. Pow pow pow.
Nobody's keeping score, right?
And the edits, I might keep score. Actually, I was thinking about. I was like, I should keep score. I'm gonna have all these games, and it would behoove me to not keep score of all the games we've played, so folks could be like, all right, she'll be back. She'll get them next time. Just
I don't know.
create. I told you I'm gonna have you come on. Like I've talked to a lot of folks, and I was like, no, you guys as professionals and the people that have shared stories to me need to come on to do in-depth talks, because the first conversation we had is just the introduction. You feel me? Now the education and the stories and the layers, that's a completely separate animal that we're just gonna peel back the layers.
Because the number of L's I took on this table.
I wasn't judging. I'm just saying, not everyone had their day. Look, I didn't get that much sleep, so I'm like, look, I'm doing great. Okay, I think I'm doing a great job for someone who hasn't gotten a lot of sleep playing Uno today. And also, you didn't have a heads up about knowing we were going to play Uno.
I wasn't in my Uno headspace.
I haven't touched this deck since 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
And I was just playing Phase 10 on Saturday. I sucked at that too.
I don't play a lot of games.
I don't.
I'd be too busy plotting, planning, and executing and figure out what I need to do. Like, you know how many movies and shows I haven't watched? Because, like, work is, like, just... I'm obsessed in a very happy way with work, or, like, what can I bring to life, or how much is it going to cost, or what corners do I have to cut to, like, do the thing. Like, you see, there's new equipment for the other concept I'm working on, and that's just half the new equipment. I got, like... bags of like oranges. You're gonna see it's gonna be hot. You might have to be involved in one of the new shoots that I do after I turn the cameras on, so I can let you know about it. It's gonna be dope.
Because if it's Uno again,
Well, I don't know how to play a lot of card games either. That's the thing. And I have 2 different Uno decks. That's the funny part. I just have this color Uno deck, and I have like another one. See, look.
Oh, I like that color. That's
yeah,
retro. That's very retro.
Yeah. I got 2 different Uno decks. I'd stay with the Uno, okay? All right. I don't know if I could say I'd be in my bag, but I stay with the Uno. But anywho, so the reason that I speak on wiping ass so much is when it comes to the men events that we've been doing, a lot of the men that have been reaching out to us community-wise, men are, from what I'm seeing now, looking for community. I think men have always been looking for community, but now it's more open, and they want a different version of what community is outside of sports. They don't want it to just be built around who's getting a touchdown or who's dunking on who, which I think that's nice to see that verbal growth out loud. So with that being said, now when it comes to healing, I tell folks that healing doesn't just mean, oh, you going hard. Okay, cool, that works. I do deserve that. I have won a lot of games. I can't complain out loud about that. But anywho, when it comes to focusing and healing and putting yourself together, it really comes down to oh no, I'm not gonna play. I'm gonna play this. Yeah, that one works better. It comes down to once you heal, you change as a person, and when you change as a person, you've technically given birth to a newer version of yourself. And in giving birth to a newer version of yourself, you're gonna have to wipe a lot of ass. You're gonna have to see what does the baby like and not like. What does this newer version actually need, and how much work goes into that. And I have like 3 examples of telling the men and the women whenever I talk to them that like healing isn't about you finally being in a place to get the solution for what the hurt is. Sometimes healing is being in a place that once you realize what the solution is, do you now have time to work on that thing bit by bit and putting it together? And do you need community for that? Or is it just you and whatever that healing looks like? And then how do you keep your healing from becoming a trauma? Because sometimes there's people who are so obsessed with the healing that once they get that, that becomes their trauma, because now it's like, I can't live without it. And it's like, oh, no, let's not do that. That's not, healing isn't supposed to be an addiction.
Right.
It's not.
And you do need to take breaks.
Yeah. Is it my turn? Am I tripping?
But...
Okay, my bad. My bad. You know, so I was in my bag with that little speech, that little healing speech.
I like that analogy though. The wiping ass.
Mm-hmm. I have to wipe a lot of ass. It's okay, guys. Gotta just wipe a lot of ass. It's cool. It's alright. What's that? That's a 6 or a 9?
A 9.
Oh, okay. All right. That's cool. Appreciate you. You could go ahead now. So how do you feel about healing as a concept, and is it really necessary?
Red, it is necessary.
Can I reverse it back to you or no? Do you play with those rules?
I've never heard that.
Where
Put a
I'm from,
reverse
they
down
do
and
that.
put it down there?
Yeah. Since you never heard of that, we won't do that. But where I'm from, we like could reverse it back to you. So, you know, I had to ask out loud. You know, just keep it fair, keep it friendly, you know. World we living in. I know these rules sound wild to someone, but someone out there is like, hey, you know, I heard of that rule. It's a rule that I used back in '84. the first of the Unos. Is that a 6?
Yes.
Oh man, you came so much later in the party, 6. That's okay though. Hey, you gotta finally get rid of you guys. But yeah, is healing necessary?
Healing is necessary.
Why?
Healing is necessary because when children come into this world, you give hope. But why would you put hope without being able to present your healing self and a self that is not going to continue those cycles that no longer serve us? And you don't want to stay stuck. You don't want to stay stagnant. You don't want those things to carry on and to manifest into physical ailments or...
Speaking from experience, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or lineage that doesn't understand what's going on and what happened and where we came from and where we're going.
Yeah.
What does a person look like if they're not healing from those things? Because healing isn't a one and done.
Coin term of mine, healing is a verb.
It is continual. And it's, you know, it's revolutionary.
In your journey, would you say that you've healed from a lot of what you've gone through, or are you in the middle of figuring out what healing looks like for you to this day? Because I think there's a middle ground of you may not be healed, but you're just handling it better than what it was when it first got there.
But I think that's what it looks like. Like, that's what I communicate to people. And I ask them, I said, I need you not to come to me expecting that you are no longer going to be uncomfortable or triggered or upset or have moments where you have lows. What I need you to understand is that we're coming up with the tools to help you manage through them. And so the behavior associated with it changes. You're no longer reacting, you're responding. And that's what healing is.
Yeah.
that's what I'm still triggered. There's still things that comes up. Having 3 girls and having one that's in middle school. I have 2 children who are at developmental stages of trauma for me and transitions. And so as a mother, I'm being triggered. As a person, I'm being triggered. As a woman, I'm being triggered. And what does that look like? Am I responding or am I reacting?
Yeah.
Because in reacting, I could traumatize my children.
Yeah.
In responding, I'm teaching them, I'm modeling what this looks like. How do you navigate these things?
Have you ever gone into a room and just yelled? Or yelled in a pillow? How do you deal with those frustrations? It's your turn, by the way.
Of having to yell or
Just dealing
feeling.
with that built up energy. Should I go?
I just did it on Saturday.
Tell me more.
I was coming back from North Carolina and the little one,
Oh, little one.
she cried, I think, for an hour straight. And there was really nothing that I could do. She was okay. She wasn't hungry, you know. But it plucked my nerve. And when I came in the house,
Yeah.
I told my partner, I said, listen, I'm happy to see you. Kiss, kiss, air kisses. I'm going to go upstairs. I need to get myself together.
Yeah.
And when I came back down, I gave him a kiss and
Air kisses. Kiss, kiss.
I had to like run upstairs.
Yeah.
I said, thank you for giving me a moment. I was like, here.
Yeah. You're about to blow up.
I was like, girl, what is going on? What are we doing?
Girl, what is we doing? What's going on? How did we get here? Why is she crying like that?
Something that is so out of my control. I'm like, I can't do anything about this. But you really are like you're upset, and I get it. And
Yeah.
I say, you know what?
You're like, girl, I don't like being in the car this long either, but someone has to drive us there and back.
And she was like, I want to see Daddy. I'm going as fast as I can.
Oh, she a talker too, so she was
Oh,
crying and a talker. So
yes.
she had mean words that she doesn't realize is mean.
Oh,
yet.
absolutely. You don't love me. I'm like, well, how? You're mean. You don't love me. I'm like, girl, you're a 3-year-old being right now. Like, I
As
do
a parent,
love you.
as a parent, I know I will talk shit to my kids until they realize this nigga's talking shit to me. My mom, growing up, my mom has always called me. She was like, Juice, you're a real shit talker. And I've taken pride in that.
That is my partner. I'm not so much.
Stand up.
That is me.
Stand up. Wait, are you done? Okay. Cool, go ahead. It's been a good game of Uno today.
Blue.
Oh yeah, that's a good game of Uno right there. Okay. All right. Okay. That's okay. That was gangster. All right, okay. All right, I'm just sorting this together, my bad. You know, I got all these cards. They're like a gang of them too. Oh, okay. All right. It's not terrible. I've had worse.
Oh, I'm nervous.
Why are you nervous? Because I'm just organizing what the Lord has given me on this day. Yeah, there we go. This day here, okay? It's not my fault. I have so many options. I don't like when I'm playing Uno and I got too many options. All right, I'm gonna do this. That looks simple. It's very simple for me. All right, I'm gonna do this because this is the other simple move that I have. I think that was a very good simple move for me right there. That's it right there. Okay. I'm gonna copy your move. Okay, I think that's a very simple move for me too.
This got intense.
Is it?
Yes, it did for me.
Do you feel like we're having a very intense negotiation right now?
Yes, I'm holding my breath over here.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Gonna go
See,
with.
and look, I look up and all of your cards are gone.
What you had those
Yeah, but
amount
you
of. I had to catch
started.
up to you.
But you
This is me
started.
catching up to you.
It wasn't
You
supposed to
hit
go
me
down
over the
like
head
that.
with 4 yellow.
It went differently in my head.
Did it?
It did.
It wasn't personal though. Uno out.
See, that's
me a
exactly
second.
what I said.
You said this again. This is why is it so tight in here? What has happened? I know there's 2 more things I want to ask you about. Let me check my calendar real quick. I forgot what I wrote down. I just enjoy you guys pulling up, and I'm like, I just want to talk. That's all I want to do. We want to talk. Is there anything wrong with talking? I think we should talk. All right. So that's my Google Calendar. You know what's funny? I don't ever check my Google Calendar on my laptop. I always do it on my phone. Yeah. All right. So you've done trauma observation, right? I don't know what the hell that means. I wrote it down. It might be a random thing. But what I wrote down was trauma observation and the goal of forensic therapy. I wanted you to go more in depth instead of just saying what it is. Like what does it look like? So like, what are the action items of forensic therapy that you've come to understand? Oh, this is my process of forensic therapy that I have used to help my clients. And this is my go-to that I find actually has the most impact on the people that I help, that I'd like to work with.
So I actually.
Is that a good question? Do you feel like that was like, oh, zinger?
I use more of my forensic training when I was working for agencies.
Tell me about the training. Like, what was the training, and what work did you do with the agencies? Because I know we didn't go in super depth with it. We just touched it real quick. I'm gonna shuffle the deck on the next one because I feel like I've made you shuffle a lot.
So in my program,
Yeah.
it was very much tailored to what is mental health law, right? So what does it look like when we have a duty to warn? Fair soft, right? So if someone is homicidal or comes in and they're like, hey, you know what? I really didn't like how Ruby did this. And I'm a catcher on this date, this time,
Yeah.
confidentiality goes out of the window then because you have an actual plan. So
You've done more than just thought about this. You're starting to plot things out, and you could see the action item is happening.
And so what is the law around reporting? Do you get to decide when you report?
Does liability play a part in this?
Yes.
God, I hate that word so much.
Because and this is the thing, when it comes to reporting, if you hear something as a mandated reporter, it's not up to you to investigate then. It is up to you to report and then have the proper agencies investigate.
Okay.
Right? And so if you hear something and something happens down the line, you could be liable because you didn't report it. Right. And then documentation. Preparing your documents.
Why'd you make that face when you said documentation?
Because documentation is the
that's
thing in our field.
that's like a point of contention.
Because it's horrible.
Okay,
it's
why
horrible.
is documentation horrible?
Because now you have to be very careful about what you put in your notes. So I was trained to write a specific way, especially when you are writing documents for the court.
Yeah.
So if you have a client and they're like, listen, I need you to do an evaluation and these are the questions that we need answered. And we're going to submit it to the court and you could be called to be an expert witness.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure.
Does that ever piss you off?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does. And that was actually a part of our capstone in grad school. We had to do we had to report on our evaluation and be cross-examined by a lawyer. Not something I want to do.
Okay.
I'm good. So yeah, in that aspect, it prepared me. But in terms of like trauma work, not a lot of preparation in the program, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
The trauma work that we did was like trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which is cute. If Johnny witnessed a car accident or was in a car accident, not if Johnny lived in a community that was underserved and experienced trauma on a daily basis.
Which means how he defines things is going to be very different from what the court considers right or wrong. And that's not just a suburban thought process. That's a life conditions and defines how you see and view things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, for example, I think when people say, hey, are you going to be there with me? There needs to be a 3-hour discussion on what does it mean to be there for someone.
Right.
And what's the expectancy from that relationship before you agree to be there for someone.
And then you have to have a real conversation with yourself about whether or not you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you just spitting bars right now. I'm just gonna let you know that you spitting bars. Some bars.
And I did use, one of my professors used to work for the FBI, and we had a course, damn, what was the name of that course? But we talked about violence and how it escalates.
Yeah.
And she would always say the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And she would drive that home, and like how violence escalates. What are the contributing factors? What do you need to consider? And so in working, which I'm very clear, I do not do domestic violence. But in working with domestic violence, which I did do in agency work, that came in handy. But for what I do now, trauma, the program was not beneficial.
Yeah.
At all.
If you could have added to that program, what would you have added up to this point?
I would add, how do you effectively show up and support people with complex trauma? Because complex trauma, while I was in grad school, they were trying to get it added to the DSM, but they did not add it. Because what they were preparing us for was to be in community with people who are experiencing complex trauma. But the interventions that we had were putting Band-Aids on it.
Are there any real solutions in mental health or in medicine in general? It's okay. You can be honest. I wouldn't say this is a safe space, but this is an honest space. Because I think about things like that sometimes.
Now, let me preface this by saying that therapy is beneficial, and it is an awesome asset to have when you can have a therapist.
I think therapy recalibrates.
What I will say is, and this is why there is never a space for me where therapy is free of politics. There is no way that I can look at my clients and say, I have the solution, I can fix it, you will be okay.
Yeah.
And the policies do not change.
Yeah.
If the policies do not change, we will always have an increase of symptoms that are exacerbated by things that are going on around us in society.
Preach.
That's what I will say.
Preach. Uno, green.
I mean, you got green, so, I mean, do I need to plug? There you go.
Uno out. Let's make this the last game.
Let me just say, I'm not going to tell. When my partner's like, how did it go? I'm like, fine. And I'm going to go upstairs and have another moment like I did on Saturday.
It was fine. It was fine. Thanks for asking, okay? All right, thanks. It was such a nice trip. He's exactly what I thought he was. Let me just put this deck of Uno away. Let's just move this. All right. So, as a therapist and as a mother, do you think that you are a couple of steps closer to accomplish what you were looking to accomplish as a doula
No.
when it comes to work within that community?
No.
How so?
I was just telling my mother earlier, I'm considering doing full spectrum, becoming a full spectrum doula because I want to be in spaces where women are birthing. And not only that, I want my babies to be able to see that, to see me helping and supporting someone couples bring hope into this world, like what the birthing spaces look like and how powerful and how sacred they are.
I think you've done a great job. There's always going to be more work, but I hope you're at least giving yourself credit for what you've done so far.
I could do better.
That takes practice.
I need to do better. It does.
It takes practice. I usually tell folks like it starts with practice. When you realize that misery is a practice, and you realize that the actions you take do line up with your thoughts, whether you gave it permission or not, because not everything needs permission. Sometimes things just need the right environment to happen, and that's usually the hardest part, depending on who you are or what's going on or what you've been through. But I think for what I'm seeing, you're doing what you have time for. And I think people see our work and they're like, well, that's what they have time for. So that's good. But for us, that's not good enough. Yeah. For us, it's a warm up. But there's always a middle ground of like, all right, if I could do better, what exactly would that look like if we're being honest? Who would I need in place to accomplish that? And then what is the infrastructure that needs to be there so they can do the best version of what we're looking to accomplish? Because like when it comes to what we're doing on mental health, what we do with these discussions, I think right now the community to me they're broken into three parts. They're broken into the people that are doing the thing that folks don't hear about. They're broken into the people that are creating the content that actually aren't really in depth in the community, or they're just regurgitating what they're seeing on the internet and what they're paying attention to. And then you have this gray area of folks like you and I that are doing things, and we're trying to create spaces where people can show up and meet us and figure out whether what we're doing is necessary for them or not. And then it's like, how much of that becomes too much of an ask, and where does the middle ground for that start and stop? So like, I have a whole life outside of all the work that I do with Get Home Safe that sometimes I wonder if I wasn't doing all of these things, would that part of my life move faster? But then it's just like, if you were focused on that part of your life, would you be focused on the work that you're not doing when it comes to this? So what does that balance look like? And, you know, what days do you need to give a fuck, and what days do you need to just ignore everybody and do what you need to do for yourself?
I like that latter.
And that's what it means to be human. So, you know, I enjoy the things that I am able to do and the people that I'm able to do it with. And the things that I'm not able to accomplish, I would be doing a disservice to the effort that I give, because just like the therapists that I work with and the people that I care about and folks who I get to pay attention to every now and then, we're doing the best version of what this looks like.
Right.
And then after we figure that out, we kind of look at our plate and we say, do you put more on the plate? But if you put more on the plate, is that going to take away from the quality that you've delivered so far? What would you say is the most ideal treatment after therapy?
Like after a therapy session or after you're discharged?
After a therapy session. Because I view those things very different, right? So for example, have I told you about our negative relationship with work? I think we may have discussed that in the first sit down that we did.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right? We need to change our thinking on the word work and what that means and how it affects things, people, other stuff like that, right? And the issue is, after you go to therapy, we view the work as it's going to be hard, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be tumultuous. That's a part of the process, but sometimes trauma and pain is funny to laugh at as you acknowledge the things, or you grow and you come to realize, why was that ever such a big deal? Or you lose the tightness from what it was the more you handle what's going on and you face it, and you realize, oh, I may have been just as big as the problem itself that I was looking to solve and for this person to help me out with. So when I think of therapy, I don't think of therapy as the solution. I think of it as part of the steps that leads to the solution. And honestly, for me, the solution is therapy, wellness. And when I think of wellness, I don't think of just meditation. A lot of my wellness folks, and I make fun of them for it all the time because they're my friends, they use the word modalities. Do you know what modalities means when you Google it? So when I looked it up, I was like, why don't you guys just say the word tools? But it's like, that is a part of the marketing. When it comes to what we do too, when it comes to mental health and when it comes to outreach, you do have to have certain words that set you apart from people and how it's used. But I usually tell them, after you deliver the modalities that you're pitching, what value is it going to bring to that person after they do the session? Because I'm not worried about when they showed up, have we delivered? What I think about is, after they leave, does what we delivered carry through into their life and how does it affect them? Not, hey, have we just done a great job as a doula? Have we done a great job as a therapist? Have we done a great job as an advocate? I sometimes remember, hey, am I still the friend that the people around me need? Because all those other things are job titles, and eventually you get off work and you do have to still be the person that people love you as, if they still have love in their hearts for you. And as someone who's black, and you and I, we all know about getting a lot of things that aren't really quality or impactful. And I don't want to turn what I've done and the people that I work with into another example of, look at all the things that we did, but the community and the people around us feeling like, yeah, you did something, but was it what we wanted? Nah, you could have kept that.
I think that's also the frustration that I got working for community agencies too. We were doing surveys, but we weren't listening.
It was just filed away in a closet.
I mean, because you have to
somewhere.
do surveys. That's a part of the process. Medicaid requires that you do surveys and make sure that people are meeting their goals.
You know, they like to do though, right? They like to collect it and put it in a random stat that doesn't actually say what it is, and say, yeah, we have that, but look at all the other stuff that we did. And it's like, well, you got to do this for the insurance agency so we continue to get the money to come in. You know, we got to keep the lights on. And it's like, our job starts and stops with people. Now, our job does need resources, but if the people delivering the resources aren't delivering it correctly or giving them what the community actually needs, that means that you're handcuffing the community to need you at all times instead of really allowing the community to grow in the direction that it needs to. It's funny how you and I have such different backgrounds and walk of lives, but like we're running into the same problems, or we're observing the same things happening on different levels. Even when it comes to a lot of the Total Truth events that we're doing with the All Men events, and I'm really curious to see what would it look like for me being a man, being in an all women space and having a mental health discussion, and what do I get to learn, and how can I use that information from those events that we have to help my community around me? Because like, I think all women and all men spaces are necessary, but I do think that there needs to be an exception where there's a man who actually cares about what's going on or a woman who actually cares about what's going on that's led into those spaces to learn about the conversations and the real discussions and the real problems from the point of view of the people that we're trying to help or the point of view of the people that interact with the people that we're trying to help. And what does that look like? Because that is a gray area.
It is. Do you ever think that there will be a point where the all male space and the all female space, they come together?
That's why I'm also creating co-ed spaces. So for the events that I'm doing, were you saying yes? Was that a celebratory yes?
It is.
So the events that I'm doing for next year, and I'm looking for the right people, is I want to start incorporating you guys as therapists because I would like for you guys to start speaking publicly on your work to groups of people that don't know about you and see if they'll allow themselves to be a part of the discussion from the work that you guys are doing and see where that conversation goes. And then can we create action items for those people who relate? And for those who don't relate, are they going to be willing to continue to show up until we come across with the right therapist or the right advocate with the right content that relates to them also? And see if like we could start creating communities of people in person, because so much of the things we do are online now that you're starting to really lose a lot of the human interaction and the empathy that's created from people being in person and being a part of something. And I don't think what we're creating is greater than the community. I think it's for and by the community, and it's really finding time to do it while not burning out at both ends. So like for me, my plan is to start doing it like around the middle to end of February until the middle of November, and always keep January and December to myself to figure out are these things that we want to continue doing, figuring out, do we need to start raising money to facilitate this, figuring out will the DC government be willing to fund the work that we're doing and what we're striving to do, and then also figuring out how long is good enough for the work that we're creating, and does there need to be a stop, or does it need to evolve into a business of its own that pays us? And do we take this outside of state lines of the DMV, or do we keep it within our community and just facilitate on watering our garden now while we can and while we have the time to? Because we're all going to grow into different things, but what people remember is what we do for them while we're there and not while we're walking away. So that's what I think of. I happen to be the right person to do this because I have good relationships. People believe in me, and see, I haven't let people down yet. It happens eventually, but for now, don't really feel like letting people down. No, that's all. I feel like I got your gears moving.
Yeah, because you're when I talk to you, you force me out of just thoughts, right? Because I have really good ideas, and I usually talk myself out of them.
Why?
Because I second guess myself a lot. And sometimes I find it challenging to articulate myself, so I just don't. Which is why my mother was like, and I think I told you last time, my mother was like, I can't believe you are on TikTok and have such a big following. I was like, I don't know either. And my homegirl Ashley was like, stop.
Chin up.
Yeah.
Chin parallel to the ground. Yeah.
She checks me like, nah. So what do you need? How do you need me to support this? Because this is something we moving forward with.
So one thing I know about myself is I doubt myself more than anybody else in the room. But the voice that doubts me isn't my inner voice. It's a voice that belongs to someone else. So I just use that as fuel to step into what I would like to do more aggressively than just leaving it alone. I have books, Google Docs full of ideas, but I understand there's only so much of me that can go into the things that I do, and there's only so much of myself that I'm willing to give away. For the community, by the community, sure, that's cool, but like, there's some of me that I need to keep for myself
Right.
as I do what I do. That's why I think it's important to step away from social media. Like, I'm not on social media anymore. The only time I'm on there is when you guys see me post, or I might go giggle at something. Social media is a tool, and what these corporations and businesses are turning social media into isn't really benefiting the community. So I put my stuff out there for folks who would like it, and for folks who don't really care for it, that's cool too.
Right.
That's a group of people that doesn't need to be served, but if their world ever changes, it's available for them. I think it's unfair for me to pick and choose who I'd like to help, because people choose you when they would like help. I don't choose people. And that's probably one of the most important rules I can stick to as I do this.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
They choose you. I can see you've had some points of contention with that. All right, well, this has been another episode of Mental Health Monday. I appreciate everybody who's come out. Oh, I just have one camera because this whole setup of playing cards of Uno, we'll see the score later, of course. But I appreciate you homies for pulling up, and I hope you guys have enjoyed what we put together here. There'll definitely be more games and discussions that the community needs. So like, share, subscribe. Thanks for coming again. Peace.